What if I told you there's a research backed way to make the average student in your classroom perform like the top 2% of students without adding hours to your day, without hiring tutors, and without spending extra money? And what if I told you that I've been using this exact approach in my fourth and fifth grade classrooms for years? My name is Paul Solars, and for over 25 years, I've tried to answer the following question: how can we close achievement gaps in regular classrooms? Not with tutors or more testing, but simply by improving teaching methods. Many years ago, I discovered research from Benjamin Bloom, the educational psychologist who created Bloom's taxonomy, and it changed everything I thought I knew about how to help struggling learners. In this video, I'm going to show you what Bloom discovered, why it matters, and how it completely transformed my understanding of what's possible in a regular classroom. Before we jump into Bloom's research, let's start with a problem I'm sure you faced. In a typical classroom, students arrive at different starting points. Some are ready to go, some are behind. And no matter how hard you work, some kids just don't seem to catch up. You try different things. You give feedback, you reteach, but the gap often widens instead of closes. Does that sound familiar? In 1984, Benjamin Bloom synthesized a series of experimental studies and he compared three different ways of teaching students. First is the traditional classroom, where students sit in rows, the teacher lectures or leads a lesson, and students do seat work on their own. There's probably a test on Friday, and on Monday, everyone moves on to the next unit, whether they're ready or not. The result of our students' success is shaped like a bell curve. Some students excel, most are in the middle, and some fall behind. Bloom's second condition was mastery learning, and this is different. In mastery learning, students often work in a temporary group or partnership, but the teacher uses formative assessments, quick checks to see who understands and who doesn't. When students struggle, they get targeted support, either from the teacher or from classmates. Then they try to show what they know again. Nobody moves forward until they show they've mastered the skill. By the way, mastery doesn't have to equal perfection. Mastery can be whatever level the teacher deems appropriate for the student to move on, but students should know what they are aiming for ahead of time. The result of this cyclical process is that the average score goes up and student learning becomes more permanent. Students learn at different rates, but most get there through this process. The third condition was the game changer: one-on-one tutoring with mastery learning. With a personal tutor, something different happens. The tutor sees misunderstandings immediately. They can adjust their explanation on the fly. If a student doesn't understand, the tutor tries a different approach. Misunderstandings get fixed before they become habits. And the results are dramatic. Students who were average performers ended up performing like the top students in the traditional classroom. Now, here's where statistics come in. Bloom used a measurement called sigma, which just means standard deviation. It measures how spread out scores are. A 2 sigma gain means that the average score in one group is 2 standard deviations higher than the average in another group. Imagine you have a student who's a C performer in a traditional classroom. That means they're about average according to the old ways of grading. Some students are performing better, while some are having more trouble. With tutoring and mastery learning, that same student ends up performing like an A student. Here's what that actually means in percentiles. The average tutored student ends up performing at the 98th percentile compared to the traditional classroom. Or think of it this way: a D level student gets lifted to about a B level. Across the board, everyone moves way up due to the change in educational tactics. Here's the stunning part: about 90% of tutored students ended up scoring above where the top 20% of the traditional classroom scored. So Bloom had a problem, and it's still our problem today. One-on-one tutoring works incredibly well, but you can't tutor 28 students individually. That's not scalable. That's not practical. That's not possible. So Bloom asked the question that launched decades of research. Can we achieve similar gains using group-based instruction? Can we get the tutor-level results without the tutor? That's the challenge. And Bloom discovered that the answer is yes, if you combine the right strategies. Mastery learning alone gets you partway there. But when you layer in formative assessment, peer teaching, corrective feedback, and active learning, that's when things change. I want to pause here and explain why this research matters beyond test scores. Achievement gaps in education are not new. Students from lower income backgrounds, students of color, and students with learning differences often fall further behind as time goes on. By middle school, it's not uncommon for the gap to be 2 or 3 years of learning. By high school, some students have given up entirely. But Bloom's research suggests something radical. If we use the right strategies, we can close those gaps. We can help every student catch up and keep up. That's not just good instruction, that's justice, that's equity. That's saying to every kid who walks into your classroom, you belong here. You can do this. I'm going to make sure you have what you need to succeed. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great in theory, but does this actually work in a real classroom with 25 kids and limited resources? Fair question, and I'm here to tell you, yes. I did this for over 20 years, and I didn't even realize I was following Bloom's research until I looked back and mapped what I was doing. I built a student-led classroom. I taught kids how to give each other feedback. I created structures so peer teaching happened naturally. I assessed continuously instead of using big, scary tests. And guess what happened? The students who started furthest behind made the biggest gains. More importantly, my class became a place where struggling was normal, where asking for help was encouraged, and where everyone believed they could improve. In this video series, I'm going to break down Bloom's 7 strategies one at a time. I'll show you exactly what research says works. Then I'll show you how I implemented each one in my actual classroom. You'll see the strategies are mastery learning, cues and explanations, participation and reinforcement, corrective feedback, student tutoring, student self-assessment, and active learning. Here's the key insight. It's not any one strategy that creates the 2 sigma gain. It's the combination of all 7 working together. In the videos ahead, I'll also show you how to build continuous assessment into everyday learning. Instead of relying on one big unit test with a dozen confounding variables that can't possibly capture each student's true progress, the kind of ongoing feedback Bloom found was essential for 2 sigma gains. I'll show you how to train your students to collaborate with each other for the purpose of helping everyone grow and improve. I'll show you how to create unit roadmaps so students see the whole learning journey from start to finish. I'll show you how to track progress without drowning in grading. And most importantly, I'll give you something you can actually use in your classroom tomorrow. In our next video, we're going to zoom in on Bloom's 7 core strategies. I'll explain what each one is, why it works, and which ones are already happening in your classroom right now. You might just not realize it. We're also going to answer a critical question. Why don't most classrooms implement these strategies? It's not because teachers don't care or take the easy way out. It's because we weren't taught that way ourselves, and the school systems we work in never asked us to teach this way. My goal with this series is to give you the how, not just the theory, but the actual practical day-to-day strategies. I'm going to show you that you don't need to be a hero to create an exceptional classroom. You just need a system. Fortunately, Bloom gave us that system, and I'm just going to show you how to build it. Before you go, I want to ask you something. In your classroom right now, are there students who are falling behind, who seem to give up, who don't believe they can do math, or reading, or science? This series is for those students. It's for you to have the tools to reach them. If you're ready to understand Bloom's research and see how it plays out in real classrooms, subscribe because in the next video, everything becomes clear. Here's your takeaway from this video. The one thing I want you to remember, achievement gaps aren't inevitable. They're not about innate ability. They're about instructional design, and instructional design is something you control. Bloom showed that we can approach tutor-level results in whole group classrooms. I've proven you can do it in a real classroom with real kids and real constraints. In this video series, I'm going to show you exactly how. Subscribe so you don't miss video 2, the 7 core strategies. If this resonated with you, leave a comment and tell me one achievement gap you're trying to close in your classroom. I read every comment, and I might feature your story in a future video. Let's close some gaps together.